Great. I think we're ready to get started.
Beautiful.
Hopefully I can kind of continue the conversation in a very casual way.
Yeah.
Because, I don't like back and forth interview where I just ask you something and I'm like, cool, next question.
Yeah. What's
right?
up? Or like the Sam Ovens interview I did. He's like, what's up?
What's up? But yeah, glad to have you here. We're outside here, searching up the environment for today's podcast. Glad to have you in and where we're at right now and just chop it up.
Yeah, we were talking about, before we started recording, we were talking about dating funnels. And I was asking him about the dating scene in Miami because I'm married. But I was like, yeah, I'm just curious. And he was telling me about his experience. And I was telling him, I was like, I used to have this whole strategic thing. And it's a long story.
It is really true, though. You have to have that, you have to have that funnel.
You have to have a system.
It's true because, there's been so many times so everyone in the audience knows, everyone calls me Pretzel Prez. I've had the same Instagram username since 7th grade, and I haven't changed it. It's the same on my Snapchat, too, but I haven't changed it. And that's I'll tell them my Instagram, and that's when I always lose them. One, because of the name. It's literally Pretzel Prez. And then two, when they go to my Instagram, I just posted something recently. Go like it if you haven't. But right before that, it was just a picture of me at my high school graduation. So I'm here in Miami. I'm doing my thing. People know me as this guy that does online business stuff.
And then
then
they
go to
your
my high school. It's just a picture of me and my buddies holding up fours at high school graduation. So I had to fix that. But, profile optimization, it's a real thing with anything. You gotta put forward the presence you want people to know you as.
And that's what my point was. Yeah, it was like, look, where am I going to lead these potential applicants? And I would forward them to my Instagram, which is very curated, very quality, branded professionally for who I wanted to portray. And that's usually what allowed them. And what I found was, it was the stories, okay? You got to be posting consistent stories showing your life, obviously, because that's how it's just like the funnel, the middle of the funnel, right? You're in the middle of the funnel now if you're a prospect, and now you're just watching my stories. Okay, number one, this guy's not a freaking psychotic killer. This guy's not a freaking murderer. This guy's actually not weird. And then, that's how they fall in love with you, and obviously they want to go on a date with you.
Yeah, that's great advice. One thing that I was kind of curious about before we started the pod, and something that's been on my mind a lot, and it's kind of related to this, is the idea of attracting high quality people into your life. And I think we see a lot in this space too. People always talk about provide value, provide value, provide value. And you see the same tagline repeated over and over again. And it's true, right? You have to provide value and show that you're somebody valuable to be allowed into these circles and make the connections you want, get the relationships you want, make the friends you want. But I wonder what that actually looks like. And I kind of want to hear your take of a more elaborate breakdown of how you can be a valuable person in social circles, because it's important, and I think people want to hear details. And obviously you've worked with guys like Sam Ovens and Cole Gordon, and you've had these amazing business relationships as well. And I just want to hear about your approach to curating those relationships and how someone can actually provide value within these circles and what that looks like.
Yeah, when you were just asking that, right, when you were just talking about it right there, I was like, yeah, how does that actually work? And the first thing that came to my mind was, to be able to provide value, you have to have a valuable skill that can actually provide value to somebody. So with Cole Gordon and Sam specifically, that skill for me was YouTube ads. I just was the YouTube ads expert for the longest time, running ads for these big names, and I would have all that experience under my tool belt. And without that experience, I don't think I would have been as valuable to them specifically, because that's exactly what they wanted help with at the time that I was introduced to them. And I saw that as an opportunity as well. So I think it comes back to if you're just starting off, for example, and you're someone who wants to be around these amazing social circles where you're around these winners and you want to be experiencing life you're seeing someone like Presley and all these other guys do who you follow. Well, number one, how do you actually get around those social circles? To be around those social circles, you have to be someone who's valuable, right? So how do you become valuable? You have to be someone who actually has a skill that can provide value to the group and the rest of the social circle, whether that's running ads, whether that's doing organic cutting clips, right? Like you guys have with the agency, or whether it's, I'm big on, for example, I'm someone else who's just a big organic growth guy on YouTube, right? Some sort of skill set that can provide value to the common mind inside the social circle you want to, infiltrate or join. That's probably the best way to actually, provide value, is by being someone who's valuable. As cheesy and stupid as that sounds, it just makes sense, right? It's you got to be someone who's valuable. And how do you get valuable? You got to have a good skill set, and you got to have knowledge and expertise around a certain subject, whether it's dating or whether it's fitness, right? Or whether it's someone like, I don't know, me who runs YouTube ads. And then naturally you'll be someone who's like classified as, oh, that's that guy. And then now whenever they think of that thing, they'll think of you.
Yeah, I really like that response.
Oh, and the second part as well. So like, okay, it's one thing to have the skill set, right? But then the second part, in my opinion as well, is you also have to lead with that value first and not come from a place of taking. So like, I think if you want to get something from somebody, first you have to give, right? Like it comes back to the book. I don't know if you're watching this, if you read it, but like the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Classic personal development book. How to Win Friends and Influence People. So like that book taught me a few things. Number one, the sweetest thing you can ever say to somebody else is someone's name, is their name. So for example, one thing that everybody should be doing is when they meet somebody new, memorizing their name. Whenever you meet somebody new, memorize their name. So one trick that I would do after I read that book was whenever I met somebody new, so for example, when I would meet somebody new, for example, at the gym, I used to go work out at this place called Mountainside Fitness in Scottsdale, Arizona. And when I was really trying to improve my social circle, one thing I started doing was memorizing people's names in the common areas that I would go. So the gym would be one of them every single morning. Yep. The front door guy, his name was actually, funny enough, Cam, and is Cameron. And I just would read his name tag, and I'm like, and every single time I came in after reading that book, I was like, yo, what's up, Cameron? And like, he didn't know my name, but like, he was like, oh, what's up, dude? And I could immediately knew he felt bad he didn't know my name. And so when I scanned, he looked down, like trying to nonchalantly looking at my name, and he goes, have a good one, Brian. And I was like, yeah. And then the next day I'd come in, yo, what's up, Cameron? Brian, what's up, dude? And like, I would have conversations with him. Point being, memorize people's names, right? That way, if you do ever run into them and you say their name, they're going to obviously take notice of you and try to memorize your name from there on point. And then the second book from that was like, you got to genuinely be interested in other people. Like, you got to be genuinely interested in other people. What do they need help with? How can you help them? That's the only way you can really just give value up front on top of learning a skill. Be genuinely interested in other people, ask them questions, and then naturally they'll be interested in you and what you're doing.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Especially the part about the name memorization too, because I think like the average person now I think is very starved for genuine affection, care, etc. And when you can just go the extra mile of just asking somebody how their day is, like even in the elevator, for example, like there'll be people that'll be looking down on their phones, they're very low energy, they don't look like they have much going on. And as soon as you're just like, oh, what's up, man? How's your going?
Oh, you smile at them, right?
Yeah,
like
and then their face just lights up.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good lesson for life is like, sometimes people will just not go for it because they think people are unapproachable or they're going to be unreceptive. But really all it takes is that first gesture to kind of get them warmed up. And I like the part you mentioned about how you got to lead with value and actually giving some. Give. Right?
Go givers sell more. That's another book. Go givers sell more.
And back to that, you have to look at it, especially with people in the business space that, maybe have a lot of people reaching out to them or, are constantly responding to people. They're used to people asking for stuff.
Yeah.
And being needy. It's like kind of like a hot chick, Guys constantly bombarding them with compliments or attention and stuff like that. And to stand out, you have to be a little bit different and actually give.
Yeah.
And people miss that because they're looking at it from a short-term perspective, like how can I squeeze the most value out of this person as possible, instead of like how can I inject something into their life that they didn't have before. And that's, I think, where the intangibles really come into play. And I like the part about the YouTube ads, skill set. That's super important because you actually have to be someone. But I think intangibles is super important, right? Maybe you like connect on something like a sports team. I grew up in the same area. Like this part's great. Like, maybe you both grew up in the Northeast. Oh, those bagels, those Long Island bagels are fire. There's always these intangible things that you can connect on. And I think that's why it's important to be well-rounded too, right? Just being able to relate on other things or just, just having that commonality or having some kind of like knowledge that people can take away from. Like people don't take that in consideration. And, they just go in these interactions, they're like all stiff and they're like, what can I say to impress this guy instead of trying to be a human being because they pedestalize people and they forget how to interact in a normal way.
Yeah, I think the moment you start trying is the moment you start dying, right? Like you just got to be cool, be yourself, be someone who's just gonna just be a total like bro, for lack of a better word. Like be someone who's cool, right? Just don't try to be a taker. That's the worst thing you can be is like try to take. Be like someone who squeezes someone's energy out of them, just like trying to just fill up your own cup but not fill up theirs, it's very selfish and short term, is a good word that you said. Very short term minded. So just be someone who's cool, and naturally they'll want to be around you because you're not like everybody else who's constantly trying to take from them.
How did you meet Jennifer, your wife? I don't think I ever got that full story.
Yeah, so we met in Arizona, and this was coming off of a year or so of my life where I was just going ham, dating, having fun. As Coach Corey Wayne from How to Be a 3% Man says, having fun, hooking up, and just having fun. And then I got serious about who I wanted to really spend the rest of my life with. So again, the book How to Be a 3% Man, I wrote down everything I wanted in my entire ideal relationship. There's about 30 things. Then he says, circle your top 10 like must-haves, cannot live withouts. So like, you can want so many things in your ideal partner, for example, or just, it also works if you just want to meet a cool chick you just want to hang out and, have fun with. But you got to write down, you got to know what you're looking for, right? So most guys don't really know what they're looking for. And I wrote down everything I wanted, and I circled my top 10 things. And dude, like clockwork, 2 months later, there's Jennifer. And so how we met was, kind of going back to the funnel. I was on these dating apps, and I came across her profile on one of the dating apps, and I liked her obviously, but like the problem with dating apps is the chances of you actually as a guy, right? A guy, no matter how good looking you are, no matter how much value you know or how good fit of you are for that girl, the chances of you actually matching with them on these dating apps is like, pretty slim to none for most guys, right? Unless you're like top 1%. And so for me, naturally, I was like, how can I stand out? How can I use my strengths to my advantage here? So luckily, most girls obviously on these dating apps, they have their Instagram in their bio. And so what I would do, one of my go-tos was, okay, I'm going to go ahead and follow her on Instagram. So the chances of her matching with me on the dating app, probably not. But I'm going to follow her on Instagram and get her attention. My profile on Instagram is public. So if you're a girl and I follow you, you don't have to follow me back. You can see what I'm all about right there.
Yeah.
Because it's not private. So then she followed me back, right? And so when she followed me back, I was like, okay, there's interest there. Because again, you don't have to follow me back to know what I'm about. So she followed me back, and the moment she followed me back, I sent her a DM, a video DM. I sent her a personalized video. I said, something along the lines of like, hey, what's up, Jennifer? Funny story. I came across, I'm pretty sure I said I came across your profile on one of these apps, and I thought, damn, this girl's really, really cute. But I'm not sure if she's actually as cool as I think she is. So rather than, I don't know, wait for us to maybe match, I said, fuck it, decided to message you here, saying hi instead, and see if you're actually as cool as I think you are. Let me know if you'd be down to grab a drink sometime to see if we get along. And funny enough, she messaged me back with a video herself saying hi. And immediately I noticed her Colombian accent, and I was like, oh, this girl's cute. And yeah, we set a date, and I told her I'd pick her up. And that's another story, but yeah, I picked her up. She was 40 minutes away from me, and I picked her up, went on a date. It was one of the best dates I've ever, obviously one of the best dates I've ever had. And yeah, everything after that was, the rest is history, I guess.
That's really cool. I think there's a lot to be taken away from that. And also just like shows like you got to go the extra mile to really, if you really want it, like you'll go the extra mile. And I like that a lot because like, I think people come into different endeavors with a bare minimum mindset, right? How can I do the least amount of effort and get the max amount of rewards? And it's like with that mentality, you're already shooting yourself in the foot and you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, it depends on what, like how bad do you want it, right? So like at that time, I had just left my job. I was a full-time entrepreneur trying to build my business, and I just knew I had to get serious. And I was coming off, like I said, a year of just hanging out, hooking up, and having fun. And that was fun, and it was great. But I was like, if I keep doing this amount of focus to this, it's just going to like bleed into the business, and I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do. And dude, like, that clip, one of the clips that I think we did last time, it was like, once I got serious and I met Jennifer and just, went all in essentially, my business went from, 363,000 its first year to like over 7 figures in a year. So I was like, it's because I got serious. And again, you got to take you got to take it seriously. So yeah, I also just was studying, I was reading books like The Dating Playbook for Men, How to Be a 3% Man by Coach Corey Wayne. So I was actively trying to get better at it. And I was also just using my gut feeling of like, what am I good at? How can I stand out? And I was like, well, I'm good on video. Like I have a good Instagram. Like, let me just use my strengths to my advantage and stand out to this potential person. And that's how I did it.
I want to go back to something you said about earlier about listing out the qualities of your ideal partner, because I think that's really important. I think what kills a lot of guys and just people in general is lack of specificity in their life. Because if you really think about it, if you don't have a specific direction, like it doesn't even need to be exact, but if you don't have some direction, you got to think about it as like life is just going to take you where like the wind blows. There's not going to be any specific path because you're just letting like without your, agenda or whatever, or goals or path or whatever, somebody else is going to consume you, right? Because there's that void, right? It's like if you can fill that void with your own pursuits, like no one else is going to be able to influence that. But when you have nothing, you're going to be very taken off course extremely easily because there's nothing there. So I think lack of specificity is what kills a lot of guys when it comes to relationships, because they find someone that maybe is like good enough, right? Because they didn't have.
They settle.
Yeah, they settle, and not even so much in the sense of like physical attractiveness, but just like qualities too, right? Because they don't really know what they're looking for, and they're just kind of looking for anything. And so when somebody comes along and they seem okay, it's like, oh, like that works, because they didn't really have like a thing in mind beforehand. I think it's the same thing with business, right? I think it's less about like this is the right way, this is the wrong way. It's just like whatever you're doing, you need to have direction and specificity as to like what it is exactly you want.
Yeah, what you're touching on is actually a very, very like meta concept that can apply to all areas in business and dating and even in your friendships, right? Because like what you're saying right here is so powerful for everyone listening, because like you need to have, you deserve to have options. Like you deserve to have options. If you're not willing to give yourself options though, then you're never going to have options. So for example, right? In business, it's the same thing. If you don't know exactly the type of ideal client that you're looking for, the exact traits of their business and the person they type of are, you're never going to be able to attract that type of ideal client. Just like with your ideal relationship or your ideal girlfriend or, partner, whatever the case may be, if you don't know who that person is exactly in terms of what you're looking for, like it's like any goal is what you're saying earlier. If you don't have a crystal clear goal and a vision for your life, you're going to be on a boat and the wind's just going to take you wherever it wants you to go. Like you're not going to be steering it anywhere. The wind's just going to take you and you're not going to get to anywhere that you really wanted to go because you didn't even know where you want to go in the first place. But if you have a crystal clear vision for your life and a goal compared to somebody else, like you essentially have a map. You're on a boat, 18th century boat, you're sailing and you have a map of where you're trying to get to, you're probably going to get there, right?
Right.
But if it's maybe take you however long it takes you, but you're going to get there. And then you're comparing it to an 18th century boat next to you who's like, we're just going to try to figure it out along the way. We don't really know where we're going. They're going to end up going anywhere, everywhere, and end up nowhere. So it's the same with dating and relationships. If you don't know exactly who you're trying to attract, by circling those top 10 things, whether it's, so for example, like writing down exactly what features you want in terms of physical attractiveness, features you want in terms of like personality, and then like all those things that you would ideally want, it's going to be hard, impossible actually, for your subconscious mind to then plant that into the universe and then the universe to then manifest it for you. It's just impossible because you're not specific on what you want. Whereas within 2 months of planning that down for me, there she was. And I was like, at that time, did I know that she was the one? Of course not. But then because I knew exactly what I was looking for on the first date, she checked off box, 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 box. Second date, oh, there's 2 more boxes, and it's like very quickly, it's like, wow, this is literally what I was asking for. And the universe just handed it to me on a silver platter. Just like when you write down exactly the ideal client you want for your business, it's almost as if you start noticing where they are immediately in your immediate network because you're clear on what you want.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And something I want to relate it to is when you have that direction and you're specific about what you want, it also gives you the confidence to say no.
Yes.
And I think that's really crucial and something people don't talk about enough. When you're starting out in business, maybe dating, relationships, whatever area you're talking about, when you're starting out, you're really looking for anything you can get because you just want that first opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's needed, right? That's a certain phase of your season you kind of have to endure. But once you get to a certain point, you're met with options and you're not used to options, right? And so your attention's being pulled in all these different directions and you don't know where where to focus it on, right? You're going to have business opportunities that come about, right? Clients that are offering you a fat paycheck to work with them, but
Yeah.
you know they're going to be a headache.
Yeah.
Or attractive girls, but don't have a father figure, or just have really poor qualities,
Yeah.
and you don't really want to
So
spend time with them.
You settle,
and
yeah.
so you have to, and then, people with the direction and the specificity, they'll understand, okay, I can say no to this, and actually that gives them the confidence to pursue bigger rewards versus someone that didn't have the direction and they haven't really figured out exactly what that crystal clear goal is. They'll get that shiny object syndrome, then they'll kind of screw themselves over in the process.
Or they'll say yes, right? But they'll not ask themselves, if we say yes to this, what are we saying no to? We're saying no to a potential client that could come tomorrow who's a way better fit, who meets everything that we want, because we're desperate here, because it's the only option we have right now. And again, when you're just starting, your options are limited. But if you adopt this mindset from the very beginning and you start applying it, you're going to end up coming from a positioning of way better off than being someone who's desperate compared to everybody else. And so it's like, how can you create more options? Well, you get clear on what you want first, and then you don't settle for things that aren't truly aligned with what you want. So it's a very, very big deal. And I think that's the biggest thing that like most people need to take away is like, how can I create options? And it's really just, being clear on what you want and then not willing to settle for anything less.
Has there ever been, because you've been down like a very interesting path business-wise in terms of like your career shifts, working for Dean Graziosi, transitioning to the YouTube ad space and starting your agency. Has there ever been a time where you've had to turn down something that was really lucrative that led to something bigger because you're willing to have the confidence to say no?
Damn. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's a few things. Yeah. Let me see if I can think of a specific example right now that I can share. Damn, that's a powerful question, bro. Yeah, I mean, let's see. Okay, is there anything I said no to?
It could even be as early as high school or college or something like that too. It doesn't even have to be super recent. Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, recently, I'm trying to think, like, there's a lot of things recently that have happened that I've said no to. But earlier than that, damn, dude, putting me on the spot right now. For the greater good of saying, yeah, it's like almost trusting your gut, right? Like deep down, I think your gut will know what's right and what's wrong. Well, I think one specific example I can think about is like, okay, when I was working for Dean Graziosi full time, I was making 6 figures a year. This was my goal for the longest time though. When I was doing door-to-door sales, like, after college, I would just write it down every single day. I make $100,000 per year. I make $100,000 per year. I make $100,000 per year. I'd write that goal down every single day, morning and night. And then fast forward to when I was working for Dean Graziosi, I started off making like, less than $3,000 a month. And so that's not a lot of money. But I was like, it's the opportunity I can tackle here. So I'm gonna work to learn. And then within about a year and a half or two, I was able to get to 6 figures, making $100,000 a year. And I was like, holy shit, I did it. And I was really only working, 3-4 hours a day, right? Like not really taking too much. I had a lot of time on the side, right? And I was like, okay, well, there's a lot of opportunity to just continue making this amount of money full time, but I'm also saying no to this other bigger level of myself, which is adspend.com, starting my own agency, doing my own thing. And so I had to say no to essentially cutting the umbilical cord of this comfort and safety net working for Dean, and say, this is good money, but like I'm also saying no to potentially a lot more because I'm so comfortable here. And until I cut this umbilical cord off and just go all in and burn all the boats and just go all in on myself, I'm going to be saying no to my next level because I'm saying yes to this comfort here. So it's not really exactly what you're asking, but it's sort of the same thing. I had to say no to this comfort, and like also, my first mentor, and tell him, I'm willing to do this. I'm now go off on my own, which he was excited about as well, obviously, because, all mentees should rise above eventually, or try to, because then it makes the mentor, like, I think one of the things I like, the quote is like, a mentor's biggest fear is not having the mentee pass him eventually, or something like that, right? And like for the mentor, I think at times it's hard for them to admit that because they want them to always be with them. But I think it's also a good thing if your mentee passes you. So anyways, saying no to like this just job so I can go off and do my own thing. There was a few other things too, like, you know, the partnership with, well, here's one right now, right? So the partnership with Sam Ovens. You know, he asked me to partner with him on a mastermind called WeTube, where I teach YouTube ads to all of the clients inside of there. And it was like a partnership between me and him. I was I was getting paid as well. And that meant me saying no to doing it on my own. So instead of me doing my own coaching program for YouTube ads on my own, we had to say no to doing that, which we already were doing, and we're like, okay, we have to just shut this off and just focus on WeTube. And so we said no to doing it ourselves, making all the money, to saying yes to this opportunity with Sam, making less money, but I mean, at the same time, it's like getting an opportunity that probably no one else has ever had in their entire life, which is partnering with Sam Ovens. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that because I think the umbilical cord, I really like that analogy too, and it's a different way to look at it. It's almost like, what are you saying no to by being in the position you are now? That's really interesting. I like the way you flipped it there. And I think that's really important for people to understand is like, you're not even aware of the next level you could be at. And that's the thing, is like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so people, and I've been here too, like, I don't even consider the possibilities of where I could be or what else I could be doing, or, you know, what higher leverage kind of situations I can put myself in, because, you know, right now we have the agency, but like, obviously I'm going to transition focus at some point to something that has the potential for a really home run exit, something like a software or something like that. And it's always eye-opening talking to guys like you, where they have more skin in the game and more experience and everything like that, because you actually see like what the next level could be, because you're limited by what you think you could be. And, you know, you stay in these umbilical cord situations not because you necessarily want to, but you don't feel comfortable to take that jump, and you don't believe in like what the moonshot. You don't see the moonshot, and so that's why you stay attached to the umbilical cord.
Yeah, it's comfort, right? And it's also like it kind of goes back to the settling thing, right? It's like I think it always eats at you too. Like, one thing I've realized is like, you know, quitting Dean Graziosi was like one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my entire life too. Like, I think I told you guys this. Yeah. Maybe I haven't yet, but like I literally did a microdose of shrooms, a gram of microdose of shrooms one day before going to work. And I was sitting in the office, you know, and I was just like, the shrooms started hitting me. And what's crazy was I started getting overcome with this sensation of like, it was a sensation that like, of like negativity, if that makes sense. Like, it just, the room and the environment felt dark. And I was like, the only thing I could think about was like, I need to leave. I just need to leave. So I literally got up out of my chair, closed my laptop, and like walked out of the office. And I just started walking. It was also Father's Day as well. And so I was walking outside of the office. I walked like a couple blocks down the street. I end up just like bawling my eyes out. I end up hopping a fence to this football field for this like elementary school or something, or middle school. And I'm just in the middle of the 50-yard line on the football field, like sitting in like an Indian cross leg position, just like crying, dude. And I'm like, and I was just realizing I was settling with myself at that point, and it was hitting me. I was like, bro, you are not living your full potential. Like, you have a whole nother level for you that you know you should be doing, but you're busy pushing it down farther and farther. And this experience is a bad experience, quote unquote bad, because it's supposed to remind you of what you're supposed to be doing. And what you're supposed to be doing is not settling anymore. You should be going to the next level, what you have for your life and the vision you always have. And so that microdose of shrooms actually helped me make the decision to quit and go all in. And then 2 weeks later, I ended up quitting. And I gave my 2 weeks notice, and it was tough, but, you know, that was the final straw for me. And it was because I kept but if I probably would have done it eventually, but that experience of microdose like literally brought all those emotions that I was stuffing down in my gut to the surface. And it manifested itself in me bawling my eyes out and realizing, like, you know, with I mentioned it was Father's Day too, because one of my goals, or my purpose, I should say, I did an exercise called 7 Levels Deep. And it asks you like, so at the time my goal is I want to make $100,000 a year, right?
Sure.
And it was like, why do you want to make $100,000 a year? You just ask yourself why 7 times. And eventually you discover your true purpose for why you want that goal. And my purpose was I want to be the leader I felt like I never had growing up. And so Father's Day, it was like, oh shit, like, you know, it's because I need to become the person I felt like I've always wanted to have in my life. And my dad did a great job raising me. My stepdad did a great job raising me. But I always knew I wanted to be somebody for my kids eventually and my friends eventually that, you know, was someone who's a leader. And I was like, how can I be a leader if I'm not willing to just take a sacrifice right now and go all in on all myself? So anyways, long story short, that stuff will eat at you unless you deal with it. And the only way to deal with it is to just face it head on and just go for it, dude. Because otherwise, imagine if I didn't quit, dude, like I'd probably be at that job. Who knows where I'd be. I wouldn't be happy though. I'd be coping with drugs. I'd be coping with alcohol. I'd probably be smoking weed every single day trying to just cope. And that's also maybe why a lot of people do that, because they just don't take those risks.
That's really powerful stuff. And I've never heard you talk about that story on any other podcast before. Maybe you have, but that's awesome. That's a really, really interesting story. You know, I think that sensation you're describing is really, really powerful, because I think everyone is aware of it at some level. I just think some people explore it more than others, and some people are more curious about what it actually is. I think people will label it as certain things, you know, depression, anxiety, and all these other feelings, but a lot of times it's a wake-up call, and that's how I've always viewed it, right? It's like, I've always questioned, you know, when I've had those moments, I'm like, why does it keep coming back? Like, there must be a reason for it. You know what I mean? Like, we're biologically wired to go in certain directions, and it's like, I almost looked at it as like the body's response to you not fulfilling your life's purpose, or you not being in the right place, right? Because like everything's supposed to be at equilibrium. So when something like that is happening, it means you're out of equilibrium, you're out of focus, right? You're out of alignment. And it's like trying to bring you back to that space where you are in alignment. And I experienced that, and it's very hard to explain or justify to people, right? When I was trying to explain my decision to leave school and go all in, move to Miami, start with entrepreneurship, it's very hard to justify to other people, because other people don't have full awareness of what that sensation is actually like in that higher calling. And I've been in that same position where, even though my situation wasn't bad on paper, and it left a lot of people confused because I gave up my spot at a top 10 business school to go all in with this, and I was describing that sensation, I realized I had to stop justifying to people, because it's everything. People experience it at different stages of their life and different maturity levels. And I think some people experience it much later, 30s, 40s, but at that point, you know, they're so involved or invested into whatever they're doing that it's to admit that you've done it wrong or that you wish you took another way is very painful. So you'd rather stuff it down. At that point, it's like the sunk cost fallacy. There's a whole like array of like mental like things that go along with that, but it's very interesting. And I feel lucky to have had that awareness early to, you know, discern what I actually want out of this life.
Yeah, it's hard to change, right? Like there's another book, Who Moved My Cheese, right? The hardest thing for people to do is change. It's like very hard for humans to like, change is like not something that humans want to do. We want typically everything to be the same, and change is like not something we look forward to. And like what you mentioned, like if you're 30 and 40 and like changes, and you've been doing something your whole life, like changing careers, like honestly, my mom's one of my biggest inspirations, because like, I mean, dude, my mom sacrificed so much for us. Like she worked a job for so long just to provide for us, you know, when she was doing it on her own after my parents split up and got divorced when we were younger. And, you know, she was sacrificing a lot. And dude, I just look back on her and I'm like, she's one of my biggest inspirations. And I've always tried to do everything to help her and make her happy, because, you know, she ended up quitting her job for so many years, working at a, you know, insurance/bank and USAA, and to just transition to doing what she wanted to do, which was, you know, now she's a pastry chef. She went to culinary school, and she got a degree, and she's able to become a pastry chef. And at least, and that was like a big, powerful moment for me when I was in college, because she's like, I'm tired of doing this. I'm not happy. Like, the money's great, sure, I don't care, but like I want to do something I actually want to do. I like cooking. I like making, you know, desserts and everything. And so like she just quit that. Thankfully, my stepdad was able to, you know, still help her through that, and now she's, you know, at least she's doing something that she actually likes to do, and that was a huge inspiration for me, because it's like, damn, she's, you know, 40 plus, and she's willing to make this career change just because she's not happy with what she's doing. Like, that's a big risk for her, but like she's doing it. And so I feel like, yeah, you stuff it down or you can address it, But like, man, I just think about like when we're 80 years old, like, and we look back on our life and we think about like everything that we did or we could have done, are we going to be happy that we didn't just try? I think it's the biggest thing that we got to ask ourselves. Like, if we're saying no, if we're saying yes to comfort, then what are we saying no to? A lot of shit that we probably shouldn't be saying no to, that's going to eat at us for the rest of our lives.
And I think that sensation you're describing is more painful than actually trying and failing. And I wish more people understood that. And that's not to sell anyone on a certain path. It's more just say, like, lean into those things that you're, afraid of trying or you're curious about, because, at the end of the day, like, no one's going to force you to do it, right? Even if you have those catalysts and those moments that, like, force you to break down and make you question everything, like, even in that moment, you still have a choice whether to, like, ignore it or go forward with it.
Yeah.
Like, that experience you described, like, you could have been like, oh man, like, I embarrassed myself at the elementary school football game or whatever.
Yeah.
Or were there people playing at it or no?
No, there was no one there. There was no one around me. It was like honestly, it should be a movie, bro. It felt like it was a movie. There was no one around.
It feels like what's that movie called? The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. It like reminds me of something out of that movie, or like something like that, or like The Secret Life of Pi, like one of those two.
I ended up going back to the office after that, and like, you can tell I was emotional. And one of my friends was like, yo, dude, you all right? Like, Luis, he was like, you all right? I was like, yeah, man, I'm good. He's like, you sure? I was like, yeah. I was like, I think I'm going to head home, though. And then, yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, man, I mean, you don't have to do shrooms either to experience that.
No, never have.
But yeah, I think one thing I learned from one of my good friends, Bashar, too. Bashar is like a, 8-figure entrepreneur. He's the one that actually got me to join Sam Elvin's mastermind. He was telling me, he's like, look, you never make business decisions based off like an initial thought. But if that thought keeps coming up repeatedly after weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, then it's got to be something you got to address. And that's how it was for me. Like, I kept having that thought of like, you could be doing more,
right.
You could be doing more, you could be doing more. And then eventually it just got to a point where like the shrooms pulled it all to the surface and was like, there you go, dude. Here's your answer. Now it's time to act, or forever keep fucking suppressing this with substances.
I think that's a really good benchmark to know where you're at in terms of your business, your life, your relationships is, how many times do you wake up in the morning and you have that like gnawing discomfort. And that's how I describe it. It's gnawing, because it eats away you, like we were talking about. Like how many times throughout your day you met with that gnawing discomfort. I think that's a really good benchmark for what adjustments you need to make in your life, right? You identify the area of where you have that gnawing discomfort. Maybe you're struggling to find a good partner or relationships, and you have that gnawing discomfort. And eventually you kind of allow yourself to lean into that feeling, and you say, okay, what do I have to change? Do I have to change myself? Do I have to actually identify the qualities of the person I like? Do I have to stop relying on dating apps and just go out and talk to more people? And you identify the pain point and you make adjustments. And I think the gnawing discomfort, like the problem with that is like most people are just like they're so like in deep with whatever they're using themselves to, like whatever they're using to distract themselves with, right? Whether that be substances or social media or what other kind of forms of entertainment they're using to suppress. And it's just like they don't even give themselves that 2 seconds to breathe, because they don't want to think those uncomfortable thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're so scared of what would happen if they actually leaned into it, and all the relationships that would go south, and all the relationships that are based on, going out every weekend, or all these other things that they know don't have substance, but they feel in their mind that it's better than having nothing.
Yeah.
And so they're afraid to sacrifice that to make that leap of faith to the higher calling. And I think that's what it always comes down to, is like being risk averse, or like having that fear of loss. Because when you're in those situations where you're not happy with your friends, you're not happy with your current position, you're afraid of that, like the 1 or 2 steps back that you have to take before the slingshot.
It's funny. I keep hearing when we were talking, I keep hearing the clip from Jim Rohn. I don't know if you've seen it. He's like, it's all risky.
Yeah.
It's all risky. He's like, walking across the street today to get the mail's risky. I could get hit by a car. He's like, quitting your job and going all in on your business, that's risky. But it's like, well, what else is risky? Living your life, working a job that you hate, that's very risky. Like like I just hear Jim Rohn just speaking of this. It's all risky. Like everything's risky. Like quitting your job that you don't like, telling the person that you're with that you're no longer happy or something, that's risky. Like your family that you don't want to go to college anymore, that's risky, right? Like It's all risky. But like, dude, if you don't try, you'll never know. And then you either win or you learn, right? If you don't win, you learn what you didn't do right this time so you can do it better the next time. It's always a lesson. It's never a loss. You win or you learn. You get better. And then you try and you try and you try again. That's it. That's just life. It's a never-ending cycle of like learning and iterating and doing. Like just a constant cycle. We get better and then we try. But the person who doesn't get anywhere is the person who just doesn't keep trying and doesn't keep showing up. Like that's really it. It's just we live in a world where we're all trying to figure it out too. Like nobody has all the answers. And trust me, I've been around everybody that most of the people look up to. They're all trying to figure it out as well. They're just figuring it out. We're all in a constant state of figuring it out as we go, and we're trying to learn as best as possible, as quickly as possible. That's it. Nobody has all the answers. Nobody's perfect, and you just gotta try, dude.
On that subject too, you've definitely been considered a role model in the space, somebody who's really, really like in the graduating class of what I want to call money Twitter. I mean, speaking at Client Ascension, being at the event over there, and just being somebody a lot of people in the space look up to. How has that changed like your attitude or mindset towards like leadership? And also like, you know, stepping into that role, it's like uncomfortable at first. And I want to hear your thoughts on like stepping into those shoes and being that person for other people.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's always been a calling of mine, as you know, kind of cheesy as it sounds, but it's like I've always just wanted to ascend to be somebody who's a role model for other people. Like to be the leader I felt like I never had growing up. And it's a lot of pressure too, for sure, especially like you got to be a leader with, like, for example, I look at it now and it's like, okay, there's different buckets, right? Like if I don't show up, like it all starts with me though. If I don't show up for myself and go work out every single morning when I wake up at 6 o'clock, I let myself down. And if I let myself down, how can I expect to lead other people? So it always starts with a constant leadership of myself first. So there's so much pressure, which is good though, because I have to lead myself first, because if I'm not living it, then how can I expect my team for the agency to live it, right? How can I expect Nick on my team, Charlie on my team, you know, Israel on my team, all these guys to show up, and then girls to actually show up and do their jobs and really take themselves seriously. And then all these people on Twitter and, you know, Instagram and stuff that follow me and stuff, and they look up to my story. It also makes me cognizant of when I'm having conversations with people for the very first time. It's like the first conversation I have with someone is a lasting impression. So am I going to leave this conversation with them feeling bad, or like, or how can I add so much value to this person in this conversation where they leave feeling good and they leave the interaction feeling great about what we talked about? So I guess in a way it's like going back to the original point where we were talking about earlier, it's like adding value. It's like, how can I just be someone who's constantly positive, someone who has energy about him, that people leave that interaction feeling good? Because if you're someone who's not that, then no one's going to really want to be around you. And it all starts with energy and leadership too. It's like no one wants to be around a leader who's constantly, or a business owner who's constantly just, this sucks, we're not doing good, like we need to do better. Like that's just toxic environment. So like I always try to be someone who's like always thinking about the positive, you know, optimist, and then again, just trying to be hard on myself too, because even with my marriage too, like with my wife, like my wife deserves the world. You know, she's someone who literally helps me in every aspect of my life, with the business, with our home life, takes care of everything that I don't like doing as much, and she thrives off it. And I want to be a good husband to her. And so to be a good husband to her, I have to be someone who takes control of my mental state, of my emotions, of my own internal shit, so I can show up and be a good husband for her, because that's what she deserves. For my team, they want to be around someone who's a good leader, who inspires them, who challenges them to do more. I have to challenge myself to do more. I have to constantly be leveling up. And I think that's the best game to play though too. Like I love this game, dude.
Yeah.
Because like that's that shit, dude. That's that RuneScape that I was addicted to in high school. I was constantly trying to level up in all these skills, fishing, you know, wood cutting, attack, strength, range. I was trying to just level up, like clicking these buttons and level up in RuneScape. And now it's like I'm playing in real life RuneScape. I'm here trying to level up in my health, my dating, my relationships, my business acumen, my leadership skills, my public speaking skills, all this stuff, dude. And so yeah, I think you just gotta make the decision to be a better leader, and that starts with you first.
I like that a lot. And one thing I've thought about recently is you can be a leader at any stage. I think some people confuse the term leader with some arbitrary accomplishment, or hitting like a certain MRR in their business, or hitting a certain milestone, but you can show up and be a leader any day you feel like it.
Yeah.
Because there's always one step, there's always one person that's a few steps ahead of you. There's always a person that's a few steps behind of you that can actually take away a lot of insight from what you're saying. And I try to be cognizant of that because, being in Miami surrounded by people older than me that have been in business longer, I sometimes forget that there's also some people that could use guidance or are just getting started that are looking for that North Star or somebody to just help them out a little bit, give them a few pieces of advice. And that's something I try to be aware of too, is like leadership doesn't start when you hit a certain point. It kind of just, it starts when you decide to start doing it, right? And people allow themselves to fall into the trap of, I need to hit X, Y, Z before I start acting like a leader or being the leader. Like, you can be the leader today. And those skills just like, they compound over time. And, when you get to a point where you're speaking at an event like Client Ascension or something like that, or other masterminds, or you're teaching, Sam Ovens' clients how to run YouTube ads, like, you're ready for that because you've had those years of experience of teaching people. And that's something I'm trying to be aware of now, is consistently being that cycle of like, somebody told me this, but it's that thing of 33% of your time should be spent with people ahead of you. 33% of the time are like peers or people that are like very similar to you, and 33% of your time should be spent to people that are a few steps behind. And always kind of allowing yourself to be in these different circles, right? Spending people, you get experience, there's circles where you just shut up and listen and just soak it all in like a sponge. There's, other circles where you're like, it's more like back and forth, peer to peer, like, we're both in the same path, like we're figuring it out, like here are the frustrations and struggles we're going through. 33% of the time, you're helping a young cat out and you're trying to get them on their way. And, that's been really impactful for me because it puts everything in perspective. And I always have had the mindset of like paying it forward, right? Because I know there's guys that have done a lot for me and put me onto certain opportunities and taught me a lot. And so if you can be that person for somebody else, I think it goes a long way.
Like on the Client Ascension thing as well, 100%, it was like, I was ready for that moment, for that speech, for that event. I was the perfect person for that event.
Yeah.
Because I had the experience, and I literally just shared my journey from the infancy of my agency, where I was a solopreneur, to where it is today. And like, everybody in that room was an agency owner, so it was just like the perfect event for me to speak at. And it was all coming from a place of just real life experience. And so like, I was looking at my wife before I went on, and I was like, I'm gonna fucking crush this. And she was like, you're gonna crush this. Because like, I just had so much confidence going up there, because I was like, I know where these guys are at. I know that all they need right now, they just need to see the light at the end of the tunnel to, number one, keep going, and number two, to get a perspective for someone who's actually doing it and it has done it and been where they are, to inspire them to just to charge more, number one, and number two, to hunt whales, because like, it's the same amount of work to get a lower ticket client it is to get a bigger client. And yeah, I think that was a really good experience for me too, and I hope it was for them as well. But yeah, and I'm not I don't have all the answers like I was telling about earlier. I'm still trying to figure it out. I have a lot of flaws still. I'm still trying to work it out. One of my core things that I'm working on this year is literally becoming a better leader. And so I'm reading all the books I can.
On the topic of, for somebody that's like really getting started in the space, and I see this a lot too, like they'll try to find different avenues, and it's sad to me because I knew that like there's a lot of intelligent people out there, and I want to emphasize that to people. It's like, none of these guys in these circles are necessarily like a lot smarter than you in terms of IQ. Like, some of them are geniuses, don't get me wrong, but I think it's more just application of said knowledge. And I think there's a big obsession right now. Like, we talk about the self-improvement stuff all the time because I think it's super interesting and there's a lot to be learned. I love Jim Rohn. I love what some of those guys have to say. But the problem with that is, there's no application of said knowledge. And right now, I think the world is rewarding executors and those that are just like firing from the hip and really just taking shots.
Yeah.
I wrote a tweet about this the other day. Like, I'd rather be the guy just hip firing than the guy that sits all day reading the books and trying to gain knowledge, because at least you're putting yourself in a position. Like, when you're sitting in your room consuming information, in that moment you have exactly a 0% chance of actually landing a client or going on a date with a girl, right? But when you're outside talking to people, touching grass in the real world, implementing some of the knowledge you've learned, and you're at least taking shots, you have a greater than 0% chance. And that's the difference. Like, 0% chance, greater than 0% chance. Yeah. Which one are you taking?
Shoot, baby.
Oh, even if it's super low, even if it's 0.5% chance that it works, like, you're putting yourself. I mean, think about it this way. Like, you're gonna hit at least that's like 1 in 500.
Yeah.
You take 500 shots. You approach 500 girls. You send 500 emails. Like, one of them's going to hit, and that's where it all starts. And I've always been in the camp of, dude, take opportunities that are maybe you feel like are out of your league and just try to seize them, because like even if you land one,
Oh yeah.
the quality of your life improves so massively to the point where that just compounds and leads to new opportunities.
Oh yeah. I mean, one perfect story for that is like, I just recently spoke at an event in front of 800 plus people, like the biggest crowd and audience I've ever spoken in front of in my entire life. And honestly, when Orlando approached me with the opportunity, who's now a client of ours at adspend.com, I said no. And I said no because, well, there's two reasons I said no. Number one, I was afraid, first and foremost.
Yeah.
I was afraid of looking stupid. I was afraid of the size of the crowd. And number two, I was also afraid because everybody in that room was predominantly Spanish speaking. And, I'm still working on speaking fluent Spanish. And so I was like, is my message even going to resonate with them? And they're also not my ideal clients. They're realtors, or they're real estate agents. I don't really help real estate agents too much with what we do. So I was just like, all these doubts and insecurities in my head of like, this doesn't make sense. So I told him no. And he was like, listen to Brian, whenever someone asks you to speak at an event, you always take the opportunity to do it, because you never know what happens from those experiences.
Yeah.
And number two, the stage is the most powerful stage you can ever have. The stage is the most powerful tool you can ever use in your business. When you're on stage, dude, you can use that for content. You can use that for this, that, blah, blah, blah. And so I originally said no, but because I talked to him afterwards and he sold me on doing it, I was like, all right, I'm going to say yes. So I said yes. And I kid you not, even though it wasn't my ideal audience, even though it was the biggest crowd I've ever spoken to and I was nervous, even though all those Spanish speaking, whatever, I still said yes, and I still did it. And honestly, it was one of the best experiences of my life, because I got, number one, really good B-roll from it. Number two, everybody in the audience loved it. And it honestly wasn't even the most tactical stuff, like advanced stuff. It was like a lot of beginner, kind of like basics, but they loved it. And number three, it gave me the experience of what it's like to speak in front of 800 people. And had I not said yes to that opportunity, going back to what you were saying earlier, shooting, just shoot, right? Just say yes and do it. I wouldn't have been able to experience it, and I would have regretted it. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, it would have sat and ate at me, because I would have seen the footage from that event and I would have said, man, what if I just said yes to it? So shooters shoot, fire from the hip. And I think when you're first starting off, it's important to just program your mind with these personal development audios and books, but then you have to take action, and that's the only way you get results. Like you said, 1 in 500 times you might get a deal, but now you know your number's 1 in 500. Now how can you get better to reduce that to be 1 in 250, 1 in 100, 1 in 10, right? So it's just constant iteration from there.
You also really touched on a good point with talking at the mastermind and feeling prepared for that event. When the opportunity knocks, you're never going to feel ready. Yeah. And that's something I've picked up over the last year or so, is you're going to have these things that come up, and much quicker than you expected in a lot of cases. And you're going to sit there and you're going to wonder, am I really that guy? Can I really do this? Yeah. Am I really the person for this opportunity? And that's where you really have to say, let me just do it. You just have to say yes before you even get a chance to think about it, because, a lot of these things don't come around often. And you have to seize it, because you just know it's going to sting so bad if you just don't go after it. Like, so the day I spoke at graduation, like, days leading up to it, I was feeling like I was stoked. I was turned up. I was like, I'm going to crush it. Like, I'm going to surprise my parents. It's going to be so awesome. The morning of, I was feeling a little bit sick to my stomach. I was like, oh, damn. Like, I actually have to go up and speak in front of, like, a few thousand people today. And I was there, and I was just like, oh, my God, like, I'm doing this. I didn't really eat anything that morning, feeling a little sick to my stomach, feeling a little queasy, went to the gym. And I remember, like, standing on stage, and I was like, holy shit, like, it's actually happening. And I remember going up, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, you just got to start speaking. Start speaking for 5 seconds, and you're going to be totally fine. It's literally just taking that first step and actually getting up and hitting record, going up to the girl, sending the message, calling somebody on the phone to follow up with them. Like, that's where it all begins. And once you get your body or your mind in motion and you're actually doing said thing, you're not going to feel scared anymore. And that's like always been a good mental model for me whenever I feel like really nervous about something. It's just get moving, get in motion, and you're going to feel less scared than, sitting there and thinking about it. Cause like as soon as I started speaking for 5 seconds or whatever, I was like, I got this. Yeah. I'm in the flow state.
Action beats anxiety, work beats worry, motion beats meditation. It's the perfect, like whenever you feel uncomfortable, it's usually a sign you should be doing something that you should be actually overcoming that uncomfortableness by doing it and making it comfortable. Like jumping in a cold plunge at Anatomy, a gym here in Miami. It's like that thing is cold. The coldest cold plunge you can ever go into. But it's always going to be cold too, by the way.
Right.
It's never going to get any warmer.
Yeah.
It's never going to get any easier, but you are ready for that. The more opportunities that present itself, whenever you show up every single day, it's like, now you know what it's like, so you know what to expect. And because you spoke on stage in front of those 1,000 people, right? Like, you can do it again if you had to, right? You've done it. Just saying yes, committing first and figuring the rest out later.
Was there I know we have the classic example of how, you quit your job and immediately you were down to the interview, and before you even knew you got the job, you'd already basically went all in. Has there ever been like another experience, because that seems like a common pattern with a lot of people I know, and you especially, where you kind of had to make that decision before you really knew, like basically like saying yes and figuring out later? Like, was there another really good example of that in your life where you feel like you're just like, yeah, I'm going to figure it out, and it just worked out?
I mean, marrying my wife. We got married after only 3 months of dating.
3 months?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even realize it was that short.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like commit first, figure the rest out later. And yeah, I'm figuring it out.
3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always curious about the timeline for that, because, I've heard people talk about how they can, they just know, right? And it's not really so much a function of time, but it's just that really good communication up front and shared experiences that they're able to kind of build that bond really quickly.
I mean, it was also like exactly what I was looking for. Like, I literally wrote down what I wanted, like I said earlier, circled my top 10 things. She was all of them, literally all of them. And she embodies those every single day to this day still, which is why I said, like, she deserves the world. She's exactly what I wanted. And yeah, like some people may look at 3 months and be like, that's fucking crazy. There's a lot of people online that will say, they'll look up to other people that are saying like, dude, you should never get married, all this stuff. And everybody each has their own experience. For me, it's like, I'm figuring it out, but like we're figuring it out together. And like, I look at my life, she's adding value to my life tremendously. Like, she helps me out with everything. And I love being around her. Like, she's literally my best friend. Like, it's so crazy. We do some like stupid shit, dude. Like, we have a lot of like just stupid things that we do to each other. Like, I can't even explain it. It just wouldn't make sense to the person watching. But that's a big one, right? Committing first and figuring the rest out later with her. I just got married. I just went all in, and we're figuring it out as we go. And I made that decision because I was like, look, I'm gonna look back on my life and I'm gonna say, look, do I want to pass up on this girl who's literally exactly what I want for something better when I wrote down exactly what I want? Or am I going to take the risk and say, yeah, it might be soon, but like, this is what I want, and like, this is what feels right, and let's just do it. And now here we are. That's one example.
I love that. Yeah. I think about it a lot because I've never really like seen myself or experienced like that longer term relationship of really connecting with someone like that on that level. So it's like really interesting to hear someone that, like, because you can't, it's like that sensation we described earlier in a different form. It's like, I personally haven't touched it yet, so I don't like know what it's like. So I almost like, I'm trying to conceptualize when other people go through it.
Yeah.
And understanding and relating to that. It's really interesting.
Well, it's also like, don't get me wrong. It's not all sunshine and rainbows either, right? Like, the book that describes this is The 5 Love Languages. Really, really good book. You should read that book. Everybody should read that book. Everybody has a love language. Everybody. You have a love language. I have a love language. And my wife has a love language. But the problem with most relationships is there's different stages of the relationship, right? There's the in-love experience where you meet a girl, you're really attracted to her, and you love everything about her, even her quirks. You're attracted to her, they turn you on, or you just overlook them because you think they're cute, they're funny, right? That's the in-love experience. Everything's sunshine and rainbows, right? They call it also the honeymoon phase.
Yep,
right?
Familiar with that one.
And so the problem that most relationships run into, if they don't know this, is that once that honeymoon phase starts wearing off, that's when the real love begins. Because it's a choice of love now. Because Now those things that you once thought were quirky or cute, maybe it's whether, I don't know, for example, like, she snores when she sleeps, right? And you're like, oh, that's kind of cute, whatever. And like then it's just eventually you start like you can't sleep or something. It starts gnawing at you,
Yep.
for lack of a better word, right? You start getting pissed off at it or whatever. It starts making you mad. Like those are, that's when you have to choose. It's like, whatever. I still love her because I'm choosing to love her, right? And a lot of marriages, I think, from that book, end up in divorce, is because the in-love experience wears off, the honeymoon phase wears off, and then that's when the real love begins, when love's a choice, right? You have to choose to love the person no matter what, because you chose that person. And people just can't understand that, and then they end up getting a divorce because they're chasing that in-love experience again. They're chasing that honeymoon experience when everything's sunshine and rainbows. And so, like I say, like, I'm still figuring it out, and not everything's perfect because, yeah, like we still fight, right? Like, and we don't fight as like crazy, but it's like I committed because I also saw the challenge it would also cause me as a leader now. I have to now level up as someone who's getting out of this, lover boy phase of like just constantly seeking that honeymoon experience over and over again, the new shiny object, and just choosing the girl that I always wanted and saying, okay, I'm gonna choose now. I'm gonna keep choosing because I see the greater vision of what I want in my life. And so, point being, dude, that I think a lot of people can learn a lot from that book. And number two, it's a constant choice day in and day out to love that person.
I really like that. I think a lot of people needed to hear that, including myself. And I think that's a misconception and something I didn't have a lot of maturity in terms of emotionally. Because I think, the way that we grow up, I think a lot of times, like, people don't really explain, like, what love is or what it actually looks like. And it's just, like, Hollywood-esque, like, super romanticized concepts where, they're just constantly falling for each other and everything's good. But, in reality, like, relationships are messy.
Yeah.
And people like don't take the time to actually like work through the challenges and communicate. And dude, I'm guilty of all this stuff, and I'm learning it along the way. You mess up and you figure it out and you make adjustments. But there's just like that resistance to the challenge because you associate the challenge with like a problem with the person or yourself. Then that's it right there.
Yeah.
That's like, I think that's like a really big takeaway for me over the last year is like, we associate the challenge with like the person rather than like that. This is just a function of how relationships work. There's going to be messy times and there's going to be miscommunication, and it's up to you to fix that. It's not the person. You just have to be better at navigating that.
Yeah. And I think that's why, again, it comes back to like committing, dude. Most people just don't commit. They're just kind of doing it. They're like, we'll see where it goes. I like them. They're cool, but they just, I think that's where people go, in my opinion, my unexperienced marriage self for almost 3 years now will say, I think what I've learned and what I've at least done in my life is like, I'm just committed, dude. And so is she. And so like, we'll have small fights here and there about stupid shit, but then we'll just look at each other and we'll just start laughing. We're like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what are we fighting about right now? Like, this is so stupid. We said we're going to love each other. We're going to commit to each other. So, like, let's just enjoy it. Like, so it's always just kind of dumbing yourself down a little bit and just having fun and just being present and saying, like, the little shit shouldn't annoy us, and we should make a conscious decision to not let it annoy us. Because that's the stuff that, people just eats at them and gnaws at them. And then I also just think they're not committed enough to just make a decision and say, this is the person I want. We're choosing each other. So, like, then they just start making reasons and saying, no, they're the problem. They're the issue. It's not me, it's them, and then it ends up going wrong. But yeah,
I think business is very similar in the sense that when people are starting out or they experience some kind of resistance or obstacle, they associate it with the model or business model, or in most cases themselves. They automatically default to, I'm not that guy, I can't do this business isn't going to work. And they start getting really down on themselves because they take it personally and they think it's a function of them. In reality, this is something every business owner goes through on a daily basis. And that's what I'm learning too. Like you mentioned, the always figuring it out like part. There's always going to be those things that you're just going to run into and you're just like, I don't know how to deal with this. Let me get some help. And that's really important when you start associating it and taking it, or start associating it with yourself and taking it personally. That's where you really screw yourself. And not understanding that it's something everyone goes through, and it's like a rite of passage. like it's not like everyone else is just like smooth sailing, coasting, and you're the only person that's going through. Like you're not that special. Like everyone's going through the same set of things. Tying it back to the relationship, like, and it once again it ties back to this glorification of relationships and also business too, where they just show you the end outcome and all the good stuff that comes out of it. And obviously social media has played a big role in this too, in Hollywood, of just romanticizing the best parts and putting that in a highlight tape. And people enter these things thinking about all the glory and everything they can take from it, but not understanding the actual hardships. And again, it literally sounds like a platitude as I'm saying this, like everyone wants the results, no one wants to do the work, but it's something that I've experienced too, where you'll associate, like, just fundamentally not understanding that these challenges and the obstacles and like broken relationships and messes and fights and all that stuff, it's like normal, right? And it happens from time to time, and you just have to learn to work through it. But when people don't understand that it exists, they associate the problem with them. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, 100%, dude.
They think it's a problem unique to them, and like they use that as a reason to like why they can't do this, and they get super down on themselves and upset.
Yeah, and I think also it's like a mindset shift of like changing the story they're telling themselves too. They got to change the story they're telling themselves. Instead of it's like, oh, like, I can't do this. Like, I'll never, like, it's like, how can I do this, right? Like how can I become better to be able to do this? So like, for example, a very concrete story of this was like, I'll admit I'm not the best leader because I'm still learning to become a better leader, because I still feel regret when I had a team of 6 people full-time in-house in an office in Phoenix, Arizona, which were all my friends before. I hired all my friends, come work with me, let's build adspend.com together. And there was a lot of trials and tribulations with that, and like, we weren't as profitable as we needed to be. There were highs and lows, and ultimately, like, I couldn't see what I see now of like how we could have maneuvered the organization from like a CEO level of like, this is what we should be doing and structuring it like this. Like, I wasn't ready at that time to be able to solve that problem, and it ended up ultimately manifesting itself in like having to let go of a few people. And I still, that eats at me to this day, because I'm like, if only I knew what I knew back then, things could have been different. But it's like, I had to go through that.
Yeah.
Like, I had to go through that experience. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to learn that lesson. And again, learn that lesson so I can now have it and say, how can I avoid making that same mistake in the future? So changing the story that you're telling yourself from, oh, I'm not good enough, I'll never be good enough, to like, this is all part of a bigger purpose, and I'm going to enjoy the process even though it sucks right now, because I'm learning along the way. And as long as I can choose to change the story to say, I'm learning things right now versus this is just happening to me instead of for me, then it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, I think altering your perception of how things played out is really important, because it's super easy to look back with regret on relationships that didn't work out or friendships that kind of fell apart along the way. But I've done some work on reframing that, because like you said, you had to go through, like, dude, Cam wouldn't be sitting across from me right now messing around on his phone drinking San Pellegrino. You wouldn't be sitting here with me, working with us doing a podcast right now if I hadn't gone, like, all those micro kind of events played out exactly the way they did.
Yeah.
And it's like always kind of refreshing to think about, every time you're kind of stressed, you're like, I'm kind of blessed to be in the position I am today, just because of all the things that had to lead me to this point, all the things that alternatively could have gone, disastrously wrong instead of the workplace I'm in.
Yeah.
So it kind of always puts you in a position of gratitude. And like a lot of guys will bash gratitude on Twitter, and it's really a shame, because I was in that mindset for a long time of, oh, like, always be hungry, like, don't be complacent, like, gratitude is stupid and it's like a new age practice. But honestly, it's been a really, really refreshing part of my life going forward, especially now, toward, like, because especially with my personality, I was very, very hard on myself growing up in all pursuits, and taking a step back to have some perspective is really important, and that's what keeps you from burning out and throwing in the towel and giving up. Because I think there's a lot of things in my life early on where I wasn't able to see it through, because I didn't have like any sort of self-love, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, right? And actually being able to like compliment or give yourself credit for the progress you made. And so even though I was like achieving pretty decent success in different fields, I would just always throw in the towel too early, because I didn't give myself that respect. And I think that's really important. You got to balance both. It's like a little bit of self-hate, a little bit of self-love. You got to be tough on yourself when you know you're not doing the work, when you're not showing up for the daily non-negotiables. But at the same time, when you're putting in the effort and you're doing the right things, you also have to give yourself credit. And I think gratitude's a big part of that. And it's like everyone I know down here that's done a really good job, they give a lot of praise to God, and also are just great. They're grateful most importantly for their circumstances. They're pushing for more, but they take a second to actually step back and appreciate how far they've come.
Yeah, it's hard to do that in the moment for sure when you're going through shit as well, like in your business, in your relationships. It's very easy to just get down on yourself 100% through the journey. But then, like, your gratitude is the key to happiness, right? If you're not grateful for your situation, your circumstances, where you are, it's hard to see, like, it's hard to really just be happy,
right,
or feel happiness. Like, everyone's worried about what they didn't do, anxious for the future, stressed about the past. But it's like when you can just learn to be grateful for everything that's happening to you, or happening for you, I should say, happening to you, for you, as well as grateful for just where you are in the journey. Like, it just humbles you for a second and says, yeah, like, I'm gonna choose to enjoy it, because this is all supposed to be for a bigger purpose. Whether it's God, the universe, whatever you believe in, it's never happening to you, against you. It's all for you. So, yeah, I think that's a good learning lesson.
What are 3 things you're grateful for today, Brian? I'm going to put you on the spot here.
I am grateful that I have an amazing friend circle in Miami, such as you guys as well, to be able to do a podcast like this on a beautiful balcony like this. So I'm grateful for my social circle and my network in Miami. I am grateful, number 2, I'm grateful to be alive. I mean, really, I really am grateful to be alive, as cheesy as that sounds. It's easy, it's low-hanging fruit, but it's true. There's a lot of people that didn't wake up today, unfortunately. There's a lot of people that don't have 2 legs, 2 arms, a working immune system. They're on ventilators, so I'm grateful to be alive and healthy. I'm grateful for my team. I'm grateful for my team to be able to be working, while I'm able to do things like this, so they can be holding down the fort. Without them, I wouldn't be here. And I'm grateful for my team, and I need to be acknowledging them more. So shout out to my team, Nick, Charlie, Israel, Demi, Mike, John. Shout out to all you guys, man, because without you guys, I couldn't be doing anything. So my team, my health, and my friends.
Really like that. I got to go now, too, as well.
Yeah.
Number 1, Cam, for setting up the podcast, amazing business partner, friend, leader for me in my life, just really good mentor as well at the same time. Number 2 would definitely be, got to say, just the quality of life I have in South Beach, like having access to the ocean, being able to go outside and enjoy the weather, not being in the cold, and having access to like all these amenities, and just being able to live an active lifestyle where most people are not able to do that. So yeah. super grateful for that. And number 3, shout out the parents. Very supportive of me this entire process, and being understanding and being able to see the vision a few years out before it's come to fruition.
It's beautiful, dude. Hell yeah.
We talked a lot about present and past, so I kind of want to hear where you're thinking of next for, the agency, your business, personal life. Where do you see yourself in the next 2 to 3 years, and what are you looking to do differently going forward?
Yeah. So right now we're bunkering down on the agency to get up our systems and processes dialed in. Right now the agency, truthfully, cannot function without me unless I'm marketing and selling, which is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Because then it's not a real business that can run without me. And I'm not ashamed to admit that, just because it's something that I need to work on. I want to be at a place where my team is even more empowered than it is now, which means replacing myself so I can focus on other high income activities for the company. One of those being our mastermind, the Admin Mastermind, which is specifically for agency owners, coaches, and course creators who want to learn how to do YouTube ads, want to be a part of our mastermind where we're sharing everything that's working for our agency clients, and also, being able to experience in-person events. I've always wanted to have my own mastermind. And then there's an opportunity as well that's on the door right now knocking for, a new offer, which is potentially an admin sort of accelerator or starter pack, if you will, to start learning the skill of YouTube ads and getting a job working for other companies. That's always been my ideal vision. Done for you agency that fuels the education company. Having the agency was always the first step for me. It's like, okay, if we can do it for clients and get great results for clients and make sure the clients are winning and use that experience to then sell education, well, now we have both markets. We have the done-for-you premium Rolex type of agency where people are begging to work with us and they want us because we're the best. And then we share what we're doing in here with this education business so that we actually, number one, they trust us because they've seen us do it and we're actually still doing it. So they're wanting to learn from us here. And then we have a B2C type offer and then a B2B sort of mastermind. That's always been my dream. Agency, kind of like a coaching program, and then a mastermind. And at that point, we have adspend.com really just on a global scale, in my opinion, where it's like whenever you want to learn how to create and run ads, adspend.com. So that's the next 2 to 3 years for sure. Replace myself in the agency from the day-to-day to where it still runs without needing me to even do the marketing or the sales. Obviously, I'll still be marketing it, doing stuff like this, but more efficient. And then launching, scaling the mastermind, doing in-person events, hosting our own client ascension, obviously like that, but for admin, and then more of a B2C sort of biz op where it's helping the mass market. Because like at the end of the day, dude, it's like, what's the point of just doing it all for yourself if you have more to give? So I think my next level of becoming a better leader as well is teaching the masses how to make money. If you can help somebody make money, everything in their life really kind of goes away at that point in terms of problems because they have extra money. So if I can teach them the skill that helped me change my life, which was YouTube ads, which is desperately needed in the marketplace today, why not do it?
100%. I think too with the, like you said, with the events and everything, like taking yourself out of the business, I can definitely relate to that as well, because there's a lot of talk about personal brand, and it's a great space to lift off, and it's massively important when you're just getting started out. But obviously, if you want something to have exit value down the road, you have to have something that runs without you, like you said. And for me, like I've been thinking a lot, like I want to speak at the next client ascension. I'm saying it right here on this podcast, and I hope to look back in about a year from now and say I did that, because I think that's something really cool. Like I've always had a passion for public speaking and communicating with people, whether that be in person, over the camera, whatever. And I think that would be really cool to combine my interests, like what I'm doing with the agency and the business-wise, sharing my lessons over there, but also being able to like present to a larger audience. I think would be so sick. So, Andre, Christian, Daniel, if you're watching this,
you heard it.
Take some notes.
Get your boy on the stage,
Take some notes. I would really, really, really love an opportunity to do something like that, outside the business. And then, within the agency, just continue to crush for guys like you and other people, really, really just top, like, premium quality service. And, yeah, do some more stuff in person. Me and Cam had a conversation about this with the agency. Working with people locally is a ton of fun because we get to do stuff like this. I'm sure, the clips like from this podcast will be distributed to your pages. We'll use that for marketing, and doing the shoots with you, with the talking head videos and everything like that, I think is really, really cool. Like, Riverside works when we need to with clients, but, I think us also getting out and interacting with people and like coaching them, we get lunch, whatever. It's a lot of fun, and it makes the experience better because, I think online business is great because of the location freedom it gives you, but there's something to be said about like meeting up with clients in person and shooting stuff and getting stuff done. So that's like another goal as well, like kind of be more open-minded about where I can take this outside of like, just a short form agency, and, how we can deliver high quality services for people.
Well, I think you guys are in a perfect position too, because your business model is desperately needed right now, right? Like attention's the new currency, and personal brands are the best way to, I truly believe, in the near future as well. Like the reason why, like it's all about trust, right?
Right.
And the more content one person can produce for their market to consume, the more trust that's built from that content that ultimately gets them over the edge of like, okay, I trust this person, I've been watching this person, when I'm ready for this to solve this specific problem, they have the solution, I'm going to buy from this person because I've trusted them so much. So your agency is desperately needed, which is why obviously I work with you guys, because I need it as well. But I also think it's like, what's the next level too? It's like, how can you help the clients more? It's always going back to like, what else do our clients need, right? Like that's the same thing we ask ourselves at our agency. When we were doing YouTube ads, the next question our clients would always ask us is, hey, can you guys do our Facebook ads too? You guys are crushing our YouTube ads. We don't really like our Facebook ads agency. Could you guys just take over Facebook? And we would always, for the longest time, say, no. We want to focus on just YouTube ads. But like what I learned from the book, Ready, Fire, Aim, from 0 to 1 million, it's getting good at selling one offer to one audience. And that's really it. Just selling. Focus on selling from 0 to 1 million. From 1 million to 10 million, right, to get to 8 figures, it's more offers, like more products. So like, how do you introduce more products to your existing customer base that can help them solve more problems? So for us, it's Facebook ads, TikTok ads, right? For you guys, it's probably something along the same lines. I know you guys already know this, you're already thinking about this, but like there's so much, this is just the start. That's the best part about it, right? It's like short form content right now, but then the vision of the agency is always something that I love thinking about too, because what can this evolve to? You know, with us at adspend.com, our mission literally is to educate the world through advertising.
Sure.
So like, in that mission statement alone can apply to a bunch of things. Obviously, helping clients that sell information products to educate the world with what they're teaching, but also to create our own info product like I'm talking about as well, to educate the world on how to do advertising so they can then raise their consciousness, right, and value to the world. But for you guys, yeah, I mean, it's like, dude, in-person is so much better than virtual. I don't care what anybody says. Like, there's nothing that replaces in-person experiences. The more digital we get, the more people will crave the in-person, I believe. And yeah, I mean, you talk about software, you've mentioned it twice on this podcast. There's probably going to be a software add-on you can add to this agency.
Yeah, that's gonna be something that happens in the next 18 months at the maximum. And I think, you know, I have these, like I said, dude, it all comes back to like who you're surrounded with and the kind of conversations that you're having on a daily basis. Like, you know, Alex Lexify from Closify. Like, dude, like one sit down conversation with him and I'm like, wow, like there's a lot of stuff more I could be doing, because he's the SaaS wizard. And when you have these conversations, you think about things that you just didn't previously think about. You're not like even aware. It just raises your awareness about stuff like that. And that's something I'm super excited for, because it's like goes back to that topic of you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And there's all these new opportunities and things that could come up. Like, I don't really know. Like, I have a vision for the agency, but once we get to a certain point, it's like, okay, what else can we really do to separate ourselves or get over that next plateau or hump that we're looking to break through? Yeah,
I think it'll come, dude. It just comes with time. Like, I was talking to another friend of mine who's like, he just had his first 18K month, quit his job like 3 months ago, so he's like all ecstatic, but he's like trying to figure everything out today. Like, trying to answer every single question for his problem or for his business today. And I'm like, dude, I literally was just listening to what he was telling me, and I was like, bro, I don't think you have to have any of this figured out yet. Like, I literally think you're at the perfect point in your life where you're literally supposed to be going through this exact problem and situation, and you're in the stage of just figuring it the fuck out. So, like, that's all you should be doing, is just serving your clients, getting feedback, doing your best to get them results, and then with time, you'll just iterate. So, like, for you guys, it's the same. For us, it's the same. It's just this, we're never going to have it all figured out again.
Right.
But, I mean, you have at least the thought of the vision of where it could go. So like, that's all you need to just keep pondering on, letting simmer, and your subconscious mind will just bring it to your forefront.
Love that. Personally, is there anything, like, you know, we talked mostly business, like with either your habits or your lifestyle, relationships, like, is there anything else you're looking to do a little bit differently or expand on in the next 2 to 3 years that you haven't done already?
I want to get back more into journaling. As gay as that may sound, but I think it's very important to just reflect and just brain dump, dude. And I've I think it's also a form of therapy for me, journaling. I have so many journals too that I just look back on. It's also a cool exercise to do. I have like 7 journals I filled up over my time since I was like in high school or like college, I would say, since I started personal development. And I look back on those and I'm like, damn, I can see how much money I was making back then. I see what my goals were back then, but I haven't been journaling consistently since.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I don't want to, like, I think about it again when I'm older and I'm like, damn, wouldn't it be sick to read back through my old journals through this journey? I also think, though, it's kind of different, though, too. Like, maybe journaling in a way is the YouTube as well. Like, that's right. Journaling. That's documenting, right?
It's just a different art form.
Different way of journaling.
Expression, right?
Yeah. So, like, I think about, like, the vlogs that you guys and I will eventually do as well. Like, that's a form of journaling as well. I think about the vlog I'm going to do this week, and that's a form of journaling and documenting as well. But as far as other habits, I can't think of anything too crazy on my mind right now. I think mainly it's just tracking better with my finances. I think that I've been doing really well at making money. I haven't been investing it as much as I should be, to be honest. I've just been all investing it back into the business and in the personal brand, which has been paying off. But I want to track my finances a little bit better. I use mint.com right now. It's super easy software.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. It's free, and I want to get in the habit of tracking it more. I remember reading this quote from Alex Hormozy on Twitter. It was like, most people, first thing they do is look at their social media or something. Why don't you start waking up and looking at your bank account?
On Hormozy, yeah.
And I was like, damn. Yeah, it's like measuring your bank account every single day. It's like that's a good, obviously, habit to have. So that's one I want to start developing more. And then my macros. I remember Brandon Carter's a client of ours, King Keto. Dude's the most jacked guy. He also lives here, by the way. Most jacked guy you'll ever meet in your entire life. Super disciplined, tracks every single calorie he eats on his phone every single day, has not missed a day, and it shows in his physique. And I'm like, damn, what's stopping me from doing that? Like, I obviously want to build more muscle, be more lean, get more jacked. I have the perfect example as a client right here.
Yeah.
All he's doing is tracking it every single day. All Alex Hormozy is doing is tracking his bank account. I just need to track. That's the common word is tracking. So that just keeps repeating in my head. So yeah, tracking.
I think I have a similar mindset towards the next 2 to 3 years, because there's like stuff you do it and it's like you get away with it, right? You're moving the needle, but it's like you knew if you were more specific about exactly what you had to do on a daily basis, whether it be with your diet or business tasks, stuff like that, you just knew you'd get a lot further, because it would just be like, you just have that, you'd have that feeling of like, I guess I want clarity, and you know, you'd also have that sense of like it's eating away at you when you see the unfinished task, or like you haven't hit your calories for the day. Like you have to do it just because it's there and it's like tangible, and you see it on whether that be a piece of paper or your phone. Yeah. It's there and it's outstanding. It's like this outstanding task that needs to get done. I think also for me, the journaling is great. To touch on that a little bit, like I did that for a little bit last few months, and it definitely helped me get some clarity. And when, like you have the thoughts as you write them out on the paper, where I think a lot of people think they need to like have stuff to write about. Yeah. You just start writing and you start like finding, you just have these reflections, which I think is super interesting. And then on the personal side, like just find more hobbies outside of business is really, really important, because right now I find myself like working longer days than I need to, because I have nothing to look forward to outside of business on a day to day. And not like oh, like I'm depressed outside of business. It's just more so like I don't have like anything like super like I'll go to the gym, like whatever, go for walks and stuff like that, but I don't have anything like really specific that I like to use as a creative outlet. And I think finding something like that would be really, really productive, because I'd be way more dialed in when I'm doing business, because I know I have something else that's more like dopamine. It just gives me more dopamine like outside of business, so that I'm not like relying on like the dopamine from like checking my phone or notifications during the day.
Yeah, that's a good awareness from you, first of all, number one. Number two, I think that's powerful for everybody. Like having an outlet, having something that can take your mind off business, having something that you can go to that'll stimulate you, where you can then just focus on business when you're working on business.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's huge, bro. I like that a lot. Maybe it's MMA, maybe it's jiu-jitsu, maybe it's something else.
Yeah.
Painting. Find something. Kratom.
Yeah.
Kava bar. Yeah, who knows? I'm excited for you, dude. That'll be interesting. Keep me updated on that.
Yeah. I've thought about a few different things. Did Muay Thai for a few months back over the summer. Might re-explore the MMA route, but I just keep an open mind towards it all, because you never know what you're going to like, and you don't if you don't try.
I think always come back to your interests, too. Like, what are you naturally interested in? It'll hit you eventually. Cool, dude.
I don't have anything else for you, Brian, so if there's one takeaway you want to leave with the audience or anything you'd like to say, like this is your platform. Little plug for your socials, where people can find you, and all that is really important.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, first of all, this was amazing, dude. I appreciate you for having me. You can find me on Twitter at the Brian Moncada. I'm working on getting just Brian Moncada, but the guy that has it, hopefully he's watching this. Maybe he can be persuaded. And then you can find me on YouTube as well, just Brian Moncada. Almost 10K subscribers on Twitter and 10K followers on YouTube. So shout out to you guys if you go and subscribe, help the boy out, get 10K. And yeah, you can find us at adspend.com, see everything we're doing at the agency. Join the mastermind if you're an agency owner and wants to scale, and be a part of a group of like-minded individuals. And if you're ever in Miami, hit me up. That's the biggest takeaway. Biggest takeaway would be, I mean, everything's risky. It's all risky. Jim Rohn said it best. So shoot from the hip, take action. Action meets anxiety, work meets worry, motion meets meditation. And keep following guys like Presley and Cam, and you're on the path.
Dope. Appreciate you.
Hell yeah, bro.
Hopping on.
Hell yeah. Thanks, man.